worry, that's the same thing that can happen here from CL into the league. Let's see which map we're going to be playing on, as our lobby is pretty much full and ready. We've got our map, 7-map pool, 6 out, 1 to go. And Empire had last laugh on it to go to Coastline. Just take it away. Why? Why the reaction? Give it to
Take the one that sounds disappointed.
Jeez.
No, I mean, no, I'm actually surprised. This is a great map for both teams. This is a great map for both teams. If you want to see a showdown for Chaos to have like one of their last hurrahs, then yeah, let's throw them a bone and give them Coastline. But there's also Empire. Do we see a mute ban come out? Oh, baby, this is what's going on.
Yeah, I love seeing it because for Chaos, this was one of their old favourite maps as well. I remember seeing them play in the SI Quals way back at the start of the year and having a bit of a rough result against a certain UK team, naming no names. It is one of their maps they like playing on. And I think a map where you now have 2 roamers and that you've got the next one and Crime running around together, being this roam duo, Coastline is a perfect map to say, boys, there's not much to play for here. Go and spread literal chaos. This is the perfect map to do it on.
All right, why don't we just toss it over to our casters then, Jess. Des, thanks so much for running it through today. It's Geo and Dev casting a Russian team. How can this ever happen? Take it away for game 1 of today.
Thanks, Milos. I didn't need your sass. But either way, Dev, this is going to be a pretty exciting game. Obviously, one of these 2 teams has already made it into relegations, and there is a risk that the other could too. These 2 teams played on this map in the last stage, and they drew. That is not the result that Team Empire are looking for today. Are they going to be able to turn it around?
Yes, there's a lot on the line here for Empire. They are currently tied in second last place. Now, if you remember, the bottom team at the end of 2020 of EUL gets automatically eliminated. They're relegated down into Challenger League. The second bottom team gets a chance to fight against the top CL team for their spot in. And, well, that is what Empire is trying to stay away from at the moment. They're on 19 points at the moment, alongside Tempera and Rogue. And while Chaos have nothing to lose, it's rather they have nothing to play for. They also have nothing to lose here, and that means that they can come in with fire, just not really care, no pressure on. Very much the opposite to the story of Empire on the flip side.
First ban will come in, and that's going to be a Nomad. Now, last time these 2 teams played on this map, Empire banned Nomad and Valkyrie, Chaos banned Hibana and Mirror. So far, it looks like it's starting to be the same story as it was before, but you have to remember that Ace is also a factor in this game, which he wasn't before. But as I say that, it's going to be Yana who's the next one sent in.
Yeah, I haven't actually seen a lot of Yana play over from the Empire guys. Now, last time these guys played on Coastline, it was Dan's main operator, and I do wonder whether the thought process there is trying to specifically target Dan, who was actually the lowest rated on his team in that match, or whether it's more just trying to reduce the amount of info, maybe some reduction in nades. But a follow-up ban there from Chaos is, in fact, the Mirror. It is one of their go-to bans on this map, especially when the Valkyries are already going to get banned. And actually, Empire surprised and banned the Wamai instead of that Valkyrie, so that leaves her on the table. That's the thing that, to me, coming out of this ban phase is a bit of a surprise, and especially with that Nomad ban, that Nomad suppresses the attacker's aggression. It's gone. The Valkyrie enables defenders' aggression. Well, that's still on the table, and no Nomad to stop those runouts. So I think that should we see a lean into that Valkyrie, it could definitely be very impactful on the defensive aggression.
I think that's something that could definitely work in Empire's favor, especially given the fact that when these 2 teams played here before, one of the biggest problems that Chaos applied onto Team Empire was the fact that they could shut down the aggression from the roam so much. Joystick and Dan were the 2 worst performing players on the team because their roam was consistently shut down. Chaos would have a very efficient way of not only trapping roamers in certain parts of the map, but clearing them particularly thoroughly. And then once it was Empire who were on the attack, they struggled to deal with the utility sink that Chaos were playing at the time. So anything that can help facilitate the defense for Team Empire, I think will be an improvement for them based on last time.
Yeah, that's a great point there. And of course, util sync is going to be much more difficult on the defense with Wamai banned. If we have a look at what kind of utility Empire's bringing to the table, we've got the 1 shield, thanks to Shepard the Smoke. We've got 3 Malusi Banshees. which will need to be removed with some explosives, and that's just about it in terms of bulletproof gadgets. We do have the BPC, or the bulletproof camera, on Scyther that can help see through smoke instead of that Maestro. I think that's a smart pick, but there is a concern here that there's no barbed wire, so it is really interesting the way the Empire are definitely going to be relying on those Malusis to ensure that players don't sneak up on them and just run through. So I'm going to be concerned about that if Chaos decides to get a little bit aggressive, especially if they can deal with those wub-wubs. And the other thing that I'm really thinking about here is there's a big X factor on the board here. Neither of these teams have actually played Coastline since Ace and Malusi were released into the meta for competition. And Renewals playing that Ace can make really short work of the drinks walls on the back of that bomb site from the, I think it's the, I don't know, I can't remember. I think it's the A bomb site. So if Chaos can get to the roof and they can clear off those mute jammers, then it'll be very difficult for Empire to anchor inside drinks once that wall's breached.
Definitely all very worthwhile things to take note of. I'm also really interested in the choice of this gridlock, clearly because Nomad's been taken off the board. If you want to be denying the kind of flanks that could come out from the defenders, gridlock is your next best option. And on a map like Coastline, with the kind of geometry that it does have, can be incredibly viable, especially if you want to cut off one of the staircases. And that's exactly what's going to happen, as Dan is now trapped at the top of Cool Vibes with no real way of getting down.
He can kind of shoot these tracks down for free, but that will reveal his position. Keep in mind, those track stingers have actually been buffed. They open a lot faster than previously, and each one does 10 damage, which is actually a really significant amount of damage. Secretly downstairs, he's just droning to ensure there are no roamers nearby, and then he might get to work on the floor. He has that secondary shotgun, but it's actually the other Aussie operator in Mozzie that starts things off.
Good start for Joystick, a player who we have been talking about quite a bit recently. He's been showing up more, but Vito, of course, a player on the side of Chaos who hasn't been doing so well lately. He's found himself caught in a lot of opening engagements, and this time it's going to be no different.
Patience now for Chaos. They've lost that first player. Secretly does, in fact, have some holes, and Renils is actually going to go down for this plant. Almost halfway done, and next one's doing a great job to cover. This is a very early execute, but it is successful. 4 versus 4 turns into a 3 versus 4 in the post plant. This is very much winnable for Empire.
Secretly just getting on the rappel as Team Empire find themselves in the post plant, and the smoke's going to completely miss him. There's the C4 as well. Secretly throws in the track stingers while always gets started on the disable, and he's going to be taken straight down. Secretly not being shut down in that instance, while Cryan is going to be. Now there's just 2 members on each side of these teams. Shepard was going to have a go, but distracted now as Joystick removed off the board, and next one finishes it up. Chaos take the first round.
I believe a 3K at the end of it for next one. A great hold in the post plant in that 3 versus 4. It was definitely possible there for Empire. I didn't manage to see which player it was. I think it was always going for that early disable onto the diffuser from inside of Aqua. But of course, that presence on the main window from Secretly, he was keen enough to just check that. And I think that was a smart move. He managed to ensure that Empire didn't get that sneaky counter diffuse off. But overall, if you talk about sneaky, that's how I would describe Chaos's attack there. They actually had numbers deficit pretty early on. They went for the execute in the 4 versus 4. Kind of more like a 5 versus 4, if I recall at the time. 4 versus 5, rather, if I recall at the time. Empire still had all their players up until that plant was going down. And I'm pretty sure Secretly literally just repelled in the big window. Either that or he came through Aqua. But nonetheless, I think Empire was as surprised as I was that that plant was going down and that it wasn't going down in Hookah. My only assumption there is that the single piece of utility that Empire had brought to the table to look through that smoke, which was the bulletproof camera on the Jaeger, had been destroyed. And so good job to Chaos, nice execute. And I think Empire are going to have to think twice now, be a little bit more cautious and not let Chaos get away with a sneaky execute.
Yeah, they've actually decided to employ a 6-pick in this instance, bringing along Clash. Not necessarily an operator who you typically see Team Empire sporting, but it looks like the way they're going to set up is to prevent Chaos from being too successful in taking some kind of a vertical hold.
Indeed, Empire are having presence up top for now. There's a lot of ways you can deny that plan in both the service, actually, and the kitchen bomb site on account of most of the floor being destructible. If we have a look easy, the floor above Hall of Fame, which is this red room right here, just under the Shepherd, that's not destructible. So where Shepherd is playing on the bomb site, that is fully safe. Also underneath the bathroom and part of the master bedroom is indestructible as well. So you'll notice that anyone in kind of that bathroom area, anyone in the south side of service is vulnerable, but not that north side. So if the plant goes down in there, we can see some hopefully denial vertically or maybe from inside bathroom or wherever.
Yeah, I mean, they've completely opened up the service wall so that the opportunity for plant denial is there. Dan, very aggressively positioned here at the bottom of white stairs, likely knows that there is someone on rappel just outside of the window, but he'll get droned out as Crying kind of peeks down, making his way up on the top floor.
That's pretty early control there. Always is, what the hell is this?
Okay.
What? Scyther? He almost gets punished there, but Vito asleep at the wheel. And, well, he doesn't manage to refrag his teammate. I don't know where the call-out was from Crying as well, but suddenly that early control from two Chaos players at top white flips on its head.
Well, next one can just delete always straight out. You said he had very little HP, and once he made that rotation for himself, he was in a great position to use the lifeline just to eliminate the clash. And now Chaos hold this upstairs control, and Empire are going to be shooting down from downstairs, but there's still the holes in the floor that next one can use to his advantage.
Attackers have located a bomb. Attackers dropped it.
Only 3 players to clutch up, and, well, 2 players now as Dan fells secretly. A player we've talked a lot about for Chaos, stepped up massively, but it hasn't been enough to keep them out of relegation. They are now doomed into that position and secretly has to sit out for the next round. Next one, upstairs, grabs that diffuser, still checking these holes for a pick, but Empire have smartly moved, for the most part, out of the bomb site. They can play it a retake now, especially with the numbers advantage, especially in a 4 versus 1. Joystick in Sunrise catches Renewals off guard, and well, he'll actually enter a bit of a gunfight here. I like this renewed confidence we're seeing from the Russian Cyborg himself after a spat of bad games, but I think he might lose this one. Indeed, next one, 1v3, still winnable, but tall order, and he is finished off there in the end by Scyther.
Yeah, I mean, once Renewals went down and there was just no opportunity for any kind of flank watch, next one was in a significantly more dangerous position where he really was just out for himself. We knew that Empire had spread out in their positioning. Next one knew that because you couldn't see anyone in through the floor. He had to be aware that, okay, there were going to be defenders elsewhere. You had the Valkyrie in play as well, so that there was more info being spread about. Black Eye cameras could have been removed, but because they lost the IQ very early, it's unlikely that any or at least all of them were taken down. So Empire definitely had the advantage in that situation, not to mention the man advantage. Chaos can brush that one off, I suppose. I think something really important to mention about Chaos in this game, because they are not fighting for a spot, they're not fighting for a particular place anymore, is there are some people who thought maybe, you know, they don't have anything to fight for, they can just relax, they can play it however the hell they want now. Sure, they could, but these players are still trying to sell themselves to potential teams. Chaos Esports Club are not going to be back in the EUL for at least another year. Those players don't want to be sitting out for a year. They want to find new homes, most likely. So it's still an opportunity for them to show themselves up and sell themselves as potential pickups for teams who are going to be in the EUL next year.
And look, it's not impossible, I don't think, for us to see Chaos in the major. Now, Hap may have to correct me on that one later. Can revisit that in a bit later. But at the moment, they're sitting on 7 points. And the 4th place team, Virtus Pro, is on 11 points. So if I do some quick maths there, if Chaos wins their next 2 games, they'll be on 7 plus 3 plus 3 is 13. And they'll be tied for points with G2 and Secret. Now, of course, G2, Secret, and Virtus Pro during that time can all get points. But if Chaos play their cards right, and if some of the other teams in the league don't, then there's still a chance here that Chaos can qualify for the November Major and get relegated.
I'm looking at Hap's stats. It's a graph, so I'm gonna guess, but it's somewhere around 3%. I think, judging by his graph. So it's not very high. It's not going to be any higher if Dan can continue to take out next one. But Cryan getting his own back onto Scyther. Relatively early opening engagements.
Yeah, very much so. And what's really important as well as that kill that Cryan got is enabling him to take control of Office, which is really important. It's the room directly onto that bomb site. Blue bar, he's actually droned out that A bomb site. He knows it's clear. Renewal's taken out. Shepard, I don't know where that angle was, but okay. Empire's still in a really strong position here, and the more that the numbers fall, like numbers advantages are really, really important, particularly on Coastline, because it's a very close map, very claustrophobic, so you can also play a lot of the bomb sites as a defending squad in very much a retake scenario. So if you've got a numbers advantage, you can kind of just let the attackers kind of put themselves into exposed positions and then deny the plant. But Fido getting very aggressive. Dan's ready for him though.
Yeah, he's going to receive a lot of damage and finally a death. Stan snuck up behind him, and even if he'd continued to move in through kitchen, they'd opened up much of the wall, which is where Shepard was, but Dan just continues on his tirade and brings down Cryan as well. And once again, we find ourselves with just secretly the lone member of Chaos. Now, he's positioned just outside a mud room here, but always is going to be the one to kill him, as he's crawling along at the end. But
yeah, unfortunately, we don't get to see his perspective because he got traded back.
That really confused me at the end.
I don't blame you, but hey, Dan's feeling pretty good today. He just got a 4K. Kind of salty that always stole the ace, but it is what it is. And look, keep in mind here, we talk a lot about Coastline being an attacker-favored map. You know what? Give me a moment, Gio. I'm going to bring up the stats in terms of Stage 2 thus far. Gubbity-bubbity-boo, wibbly-bobbly. We haven't seen Coastline played yet, this Stage 2, according to CGG. Okay. Well, bibbity-bobbity-boo, I'm going to check Stage 1. Wibbly-wobbly, la-li-la, 6 players, 52% defensive win rate. So much for that. I was going to say that it was super, well, at least marginally attacker-side. It turns out I was wrong, at least in EU Stage 1. Keep in mind that was with no ace. I would like to think that ace does definitely swing this map in favor of the attack, specifically on that hookah defense, which previously was an 85% win rate in Stage 1 at EUL. This hookah defense is, so hard when you get those drinks walls open. You can go for an aqua execute with drinks basically cleared out for free as long as you breach these walls. That's why we're seeing the mute from always. So yeah, bit of a tangent, but my point was that we shouldn't see a really strong defensive halfway. I think a 3-3 would be happy for Empire, and that's actually what these teams had last time they played on Coastline. But again, with Ace in, I really feel like the attacker should be even more favored.
You'd think that. Last time they came here, which was back on round 1, Chaos did take that round, but it didn't seem that it was so much because of that. A lot of that was also just because of the position that Secretly was able to take on the window in the post-plant situation that Empire failed to deal with, and obviously the track stingers being thrown in and whatnot, and he could take advantage of that. But are Empire going to be ready for that this time?
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. The only reason why Chaos won that previous attack onto this bomb site is because Empire had no idea where they were pushing from and that they were planting. This time, Chaos going for, oh, that's a nice shot, next one. And that is theater control. Great job, at least partly. I think there's still another player at top wide, but Cryan's in a perfect position to receive. What a beautiful pinch now. Chaos, they've not only established themselves an early 5v3, but they've got control of the entire east side of the top floor and are very much prepared here for a VIP execute.
Looking pretty clean so far. And once again, these have been very early engagements in this game. Around the 2-minute mark, when a number of the first kills have come in, you can see that Team Empire playing a lot closer into the site, as I was going to say, and then mention how it's a risk because of that pink wall, but it doesn't matter. The Scyther gets a kill back onto Renewals, but right now, there's still the advantage being held by Chaos. Dan just desperately holding on here in Billiards, where he can take the position. He will get a kill onto Cryan. He's been doing pretty well in this game so far, but there's still 3 members of Chaos to deal with.
I mean, Dan's sitting at 6-1 so far across 3 rounds, and Scyther at 3-2. These are the 2 players I would absolutely want in the clutch scenario, but next one's also been stepping up. He's so low on HP. Scyther could spray them both down. One down, another one. Suddenly, this 5v2 for Chaos is a 1v1, and it's all on secretly.
He's starting to peek through, and he nearly gets the kill, but it's going to be Scyther who confirms it. Team Empire come back from a disadvantage to take themselves the round.
4K after 4K Empire, when does it stop? Dan found 4 just the round prior, and Scyther not only a 4K, but a 1 versus 3 clutch. Credit over to Dan, who found the other kill in that round, but also for lighting up both of those players who eventually pushed in through Aqua into the bomb site, because I think that definitely assisted with Scyther's, not only his chance of winning those gunfights, but also confidence. Like you can see how much HP a person has if they kill you, right? And you know how many times you've hit them. So Dan would have called out both lit coming Aqua, and that gives so much more confidence to Scyther with that P shoot over an MBX of the MPX in those gunfights. He's like, I'm just going to swing both of them, and he got both of those kills. A beautiful 1v3, and Scyther as a player, he's gotten up to 6 kills now. Him and Dan are definitely getting Empire a get out jail free card for some of these unwinnable situations.
I think the confidence on the side of Team Empire is really notable and really important in this game. Not only did they have a rough game against Chaos before in stage 1, where it was a draw in the end, but most importantly, it was Dan and Joystick who were being consistently punished. That seems to be switching around. But also, after what happened on Monday, having to have that forfeit in a game that they could have theoretically and feasibly won, that's a hard thing to come back from, knowing how much it slashed your chances to make it into the top 4. But Empire don't seem like a team who have let that phase them to the point that it's affecting their performance. In fact, almost the total opposite. It looks like they've let it fuel them.
Very much so. There's 2 ways it can go, right? Either a forfeit like that, it just tilts you out of your brain, you get frustrated, demotivated, or it can be that fire underneath you to just go even harder, even stronger, and that's definitely happened. That said, Dan, man of the hour, has been shut down very, very early, and Chaos here have established themselves with a really good early push, and Joystick put on the pump as well.
He throws in the C4, but it won't catch anybody out, but then he gets a great shot onto Vito. Didn't see that one coming. And the Mute will still be able to contest and hold on to this area in Sunrise. He's supported by the Clash as well, but he does start to get stunned out. Chaos still have plenty of time. Just about 2 minutes of this round still remains. I feel like I look at the clock and I'm expecting it to be so much further through every single time, but no, it's not.
Yeah, it's funny. The average opening kill has been very, very early. For Chaos, every time they've gotten it, it's been averaging at the 2:26 marks. That's only 34 seconds into the round. For Empire, 1:42, which is still very, very early for an opening kill. And, well, that's Coastline for you, right? These teams are very much playing into that aggressive play style.
20-second meta Hoomst secretly nearly catching out his prey, but instead he'll throw in the track stingers to prevent the rotations available, and there's a kill for Scyther onto Cryan. That's one of those aggressive players taken out, but he's traded straight out as Renewal's positioned here outside, probably in a position that Empire weren't expecting, and secretly adds on to the kill count as well, and now Empire find themselves in the disadvantageous position.
The main concern here is the last 2 operators are your Clash and your Smoke. Both operators with a bit of a lack in firepower. Shepard's going to have to show off how good he is with the SMG-11, and always, at some point, he's surely going to have to get out the SMG because he can't leave all the gunning onto Shepard. For now, he's just going for info gathering. That's okay. Keep in mind, that track stinger set in the bathroom is going to make it really hard for Empire to flank out that side. They could try and shoot it, but that would make them vulnerable to anyone peeking from lobby. 25 seconds left. Here's the execute.
He'll have to use the smoke to deter Renewals, but secretly could just creep in behind him, and that looks like what he's going to go for. As he's pushed back, he walks straight into the line of sight, and Chaos take their second round.
A good execute. They didn't get too ahead of themselves. The way that you would typically see a defensive squad win a 2 versus 3, or like a situation where there's not much time left and you're in an there's not much. You don't have the man count, right? It's 2v3, you've got numbers disadvantage. The way that you win that is by isolating 1v1s and hopefully letting the timer run out, forcing the attackers to plant. And credit to Chaos, they set up really well. They had that breach going down with the Ace Selma on the kitchen wall so that would further expose any positions in kitchen, also potentially enable a cross into that plant spot on the barbecue. And also, all the meanwhile, there was secretly to push on through, I think it was secretly to push on through the bathroom in the late round. You could see Empire had no clue. So really good stuff there from Chaos. They got the opening pick. They kept the refrags up in the mid-round, even though they did struggle somewhat with this aggression from Empire. But then when it was a 3v2, they didn't let that phase them, and they managed to polish off the end of the round.
Now, look at this. Chaos have actually changed up what it is they're going for. Instead of opting for the gridlock, they've gone for Thatcher, who is actually unbanned in this round. That should be able to help them deal with things like the Banshee from the Melusi, or I suppose, of course, the mute jammers as well. But Empire this time aren't bringing a Valkyrie, so anything like Black Eyes, not that you would really use EMPs to deal with those anyway. But the point is, it should prevent them being impeded as much as they otherwise would be from the utility, particularly from Melusi and Mute.
Yeah, there's basically two reasons why you would bring a Thatcher on Coastline. Because you're like, well, he doesn't have any flashbangs, doesn't have any nades, you know, he's not really making sense for this site. But the main reason is exactly this. Very early on, Chaos already doing it. So not only does that EMP disable the mute jammer on the sauna wall there, but also the two ADSs, and Empire wanted to go for that, I call it a Pengu hold, where you have the shield in this close position in Sunrise. Crying, what are you doing? I'm trying to color cast here, mate. You're just killing everyone. Stop it.
And Renewals looks like he's going to jump straight into kitchen as well as Crying starts to flank round. So Empire could find themselves getting very trapped here if there is anyone still over towards that side of the map. Joystick takes some damage as he tries to back out towards office. There's one kill. He secures from himself. Crying now euthanized and won't be a problem, but they're still in this coveted 3 versus 2 that they found themselves in a number of times.
And not the operators I would want for it either. So much time to burn that Smoke's gases doesn't really matter that much. And the lack of firepower in these two SMG-11s is really going to hurt them, especially with next one in this position. They know where the smoke is. He's behind the Sunrise bar. They've completely isolated him. Next one to throw in some util. That's going to remove Shepard's audio for now. And Joystick taken out. They know the last player is the one who is trapped in Sunrise, but he's allowed to rotate up Cool Vibes. Still in a 1v3, this is probably not winnable, and he can't snipe the plant from above.
Oh, he's having the enemies pinged for him, but he'll just jump out as he wants to try and flank around behind them. There's the player with the diffuser. The next one was ready. Shepard taken straight out, and it'll be a 3-3 at the half.
Chaos demonstrating some good adaptations there. Really nice the way that they brought the Thatcher for that round, specifically to deal with what I would call the Pengu hold in the corner of Sunrise with the deployable shield. A strategy that we really didn't get to see in action because it was just hard counted from the get-go. But the reason why you would do that is the smoke typically is the player who would play in that position. You play behind the deployable shield in the corner, and you've got two ADSs, you've got a mute jammer. They can't breach the wall next to you. They can't destroy your shield without burning through the ADSs, and you can burn tons of time with your gas. So the idea there is you're basically delaying time so that if they want to go for a sauna execute and plant Sunrise, it's going to take them like maybe 2 minutes 30, most of the round, to clear you out and eventually open that wall and kill you if they even can. And then there's not going to be much time left, and your team's probably going to win in the dire moments and prevent that execute. That was hard counted right out of the gate from Chaos because of that Thatcher pick. So I think that was a really smart move from them. I don't think the gridlock would have been super impactful anyway. I would have liked to see them bring the Thatcher for their hookah attack so they could destroy the mute jammers, is what we're seeing from Empire, is actually bring the Thatcher and the Ace. And that's really important. Funnily enough, there's no wall denial from Chaos. I'm really concerned. What are they going to do here if Empire just breaches all the drinks wall and goes for an Aqua execute? This wall right here, like typically you would play your smoke near the A-bomb, literally where Secretly is playing right now. He's going to put a shield up. Doesn't matter if the drinks wall gets breached. He's going to die. That shield ain't going to protect him if the entire reinforced wall is gone.
Another question mark that I have, and it's not necessary to say that it is a terrible decision, I'm just intrigued. They've put Joystick back on entry. Joystick's been having a bit of a role change recently. They moved him onto some of the more supporting roles. this is the first time in a while that actually we've seen him take on this again. And the reason they took him off is because he was having struggles, and he was doing pretty well on these other operators. So I'm very intrigued to see how that's going to go, specifically against this very aggressive defensive hold that Chaos are going for, that we can see right now being exhibited by Next One and Vito.
Well, I'm sure Joystick's happy he doesn't have to keep playing with the SMG-11 this round. He's got a gun with a decent magazine and really basically no recoil. Of course, Ash, while she is regarded as an entry operator, she's also a utility powerhouse in this current meta. Cryin taking a bit of damage here, trying to fight here on the window. He won. That's why the pre-fire came through from Dan. Oh, he sprints past. Uses the pistol for speed, but that was a dangerous move. Cryin roaming downstairs. It looks like he's trying to play Vert to counter the VIP push. He's got C4s, and if Scyther treads there on the wooden floor, he may find the floor is in fact lava. C4, though, goes out with no info pretty early. Scyther knows that the bookshelf position is clear thanks to that concussion, and Empire going for this VIP clear. Again, I don't know. Oh, okay, Joystick's gotten the kill under Cryin. There you go. Revenge, entry onto entry.
Oh no, that was a bit of a risk from Cryin there. I was going to say that Empire obviously need to know that there's a black eye placed in VIP, and where they are in Hall of Fame is safe from the vertical play, but it could become more risky, and then Cryin just went and yeeted himself outside and straight into the magazine of Joystick. So I suppose there's always that as a counter. And it's given Empire more free roam to make it over into this east side of the map, but Vito, downstairs in the lobby, plays off the white stairs and can just headshot Joystick.
Maybe I'm biased against specific playstyles here, but I really feel like Empire should be prioritized breaching the drinks wall. Finally they do, but time is ticking away, secretly pushed into this corner now. I'm disappointed that Joystick found himself in that 1v1, but it might not matter here. Scyther eventually does punish Vito, and look at that, Shepard as well for one. This wall breach means he can look deep all the way across the hallway, but Renewal still has the Elder, 2 versus 3, but it's the smoke and the Maestro is still alive. They're cleaned up, and Empire do close it. They made me sweat there once it became a 4v4, once that time ticked down, but they do close it in the dire moments.
They had to expend some time and energy in order to make it in through the east side, but as you so astutely put, once you have control over that pink wall, as I call it, you call it the drinks wall. Once you have control over the pink wall, especially when there was no wall denial that they had to deal with, you have so many opportunities to hold into there. You could still have a player up on the roof. You had a player in luggage like we saw. You had a player in VIP corridor. There are so many different angles you can play. And then you can push in through Aqua if you want. The options are limitless. And Empire
kind of
proved
the opposite
it.
on the defense.
Yeah.
It's the opposit on defense. That's the thing that Ace does to Coastline. Just means that you can't sit anywhere. Like where are you going to sit on a hookah defense once the drinks wall has been breached and once the VIP wall has been breached?
And
you
it's
can't
so hard
sit
to late
anywhere.
flank.
Yeah, and the 2 roamers died, right? Maybe if Cryin had kept his C4 in the pocket for longer, maybe if he hadn't gotten so aggressive and picked up early, he could try and late flank. Vito was the other roamer. He got 1 kill, but eventually he was traded out. You could try play C4s below, but they're probably just going to play on top of the pool table eventually, and it's not that hard for the attackers to have a late push to lurk and kill the roamers downstairs by jumping down the office door or the blue window or something. So it's just getting really, really hard to defend hookah in particular, and that's why I'm really glad we're seeing teams kind of gravitate away from it at least a little bit. Chaos aren't lingering there. As I mentioned, Stage 1, EUL saw an 85% win rate on that Hookah bomb site. And in my opinion, Hookah is now one of the worst bomb sites on the map if Thatcher and Ace are on the table.
Definitely a yikes for Chaos. But going down to Kitchen, they've decided to, it looks like, feed into the aggression that they want to use, having adopted the Vigil. But you have to be aware that Scyther is playing on Jackal. If I'm not mistaken, that was a 6 pick, question mark?
I did not manage to see, sorry.
Well, either way,
scroll back on the broadcast and have a look for you.
It's definitely something that's going to make the efficacy of the Vigil roam a lot, well, minimized.
Yeah, it was actually. Good eye. It was a 6 pick.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Double checked it for you. I ran the numbers. So it looks like it's very much going to be a vertical take here for Empire onto Kitchen. Of course, the floor in all of VIP and a lot of Master is destructible. We've actually got roamers in there at the moment. Actually, no, sorry, VIP roamers are gone. Ooh, nice impact trick there. I like this strategy from Chaos. They're doing a vertical roam, like upstairs, but they're not actually playing in Master, in VIP, and they also find the first pick, that Scyther no less, that Jackal, which means smokes are gone, and also the Inox tracker is gone as well.
Dan just missing out on his prey, but Joystick won't. Renewal's taken out. That's your alibi. Still trying to play up through this upstairs as Dan collects the next one. That's Vito down, and suddenly Chaos is starting to limit, or have limited, the number of players they have available. But crucially, those roamers are still on the board. This is almost the opposite of what happened last time, where they were left with the anchors very late on.
What I will say is Vito and Renewals were the players trying to hold on to the top floor as long as possible. Next one, much more on a loose roam. And, well, Empire did a decent job of clearing out that top pressure. They only lost the one player, but Crying now, interested in a re-flank up here. There's Thatcher outside the main lobby. Oh, Joystick heard him. 110% Joystick heard him. Surely he pre-fires White. Crying's, though, backed up into lobby. Joystick's going to take a 1v1 with no info here. That's really dangerous, and it might cost Empire their man advantage.
Well, taking those shots has definitely given away his location, and now Cryan knows that the player is there. He's heard him. The next one is here for backup as well. That makes the opportunity to do that once again so much more limited. But Shepard's going to go in for the plant, affected by the Banshee, but the smoke is there for protection. And Crying needs to move forward if he wants to take down these players, because Dan's just going to start cleaning up. Next one and Crying both down, and now it's all on Secretly's shoulders, but he gets completely shot down. Dan on a tear today, and Team Empire take the second attacking round.
A great take there from Empire. Firstly, turning their attention to the top floor so that they could engage that vertical play. It was very much telegraphed by their team composition, particularly that Bark and Operator that is so good on coastline with all of the soft floors, whether they're playing in hookah and you want to go underneath and pressure them vertically, or whether they're playing a bomb site like Kitchen, you want to go above and pressure them vertically. The options are definitely there, and that's why we saw always picking that. Chaos had a nice strategy to try and deal with that vertical take. They had that roam in 90 with the alibi and the shield, the Melusa to impact trick the reinforced wall to protect the alibi at 90. And while Chaos did find that first opening pick, it was Vito onto Scyther pretty early on, actually, 153 on the clock remaining. Empire managed to refrag both of that player and a second as well upstairs and get control. I wouldn't say early on. They had about, just over a minute left to execute, but 4v3. And Empire managed to isolate. They just drone out the bomb site, basically. They really put Secretly in a difficult position by using that vertical play, limited the amount of spots he could be in, forced down that plan, and the last two roamers were in security trying to flank, of course, with Dan in lobby, an outside lobby. That wasn't really possible.
Well, not all hope is lost. Empire have not yet made it to match point. There's still the opportunity for the draw, recreate the successes of the consequences of the past, I suppose. Interestingly, it doesn't look like Chaos have learned from what happened last time, because once again, they haven't brought wall denial.
I don't know, maybe I'm just biased into like specific playstyles on this map, but I feel like with Thatcher like not banned and Ace not banned, it's just so viable here to go for the strategy. But next one, he's just going to play aggro. If he jumps out here, could he even find a kill or two? Oh no, Shepard's
Probably
watching
not.
it. Shepard is 110% watching that. Next one, thankful. But Vito's going to get aggressive. Oh, is he punished? He hears the repel. Misses the player. Got a pre-play C4 actually on the roof above him. Chaos are trying to, instead of playing that like wall denial, more anchor style strategy, they're trying to play more aggressive. I don't think it's going to work here against Empire. They're being really methodical, and that's the perfect way to punish that. In fact, Dan's going to see Vito on his drone downstairs, I think.
Quite possibly. Yeah, he's rotating back around, but opening up the service door. He's trying to get the wall bang. Doesn't get him, but it should at least apply the pressure onto Vito so that he knows that he's being watched, and with the drone sent in, now he definitely knows he's being watched. And well, instead of actually rotating too far, he's just going to push up towards the main entrance. You've got next one coming up to support him, so They're just being cautious in case anyone comes in from that direction, but that's not what's happening. Empire are entering from upstairs.
Yeah, I think that's VIP breach with lots of time left, and this is when we saw Empire rotate for that aqua push. They opened VIP, in my opinion, maybe a little bit superfluous. You could just breach on the drinks walls and go for an aqua execute without breaching VIP, but it does make it much easier to clear out those drinks positions. Always droning up aqua. Bido's in a position to flank. Remember, no Nomad on the table, and Empire not bringing the gridlock means that this flank might work out. Empire might have to dedicate a flank watch. Now, he always is going to drone downstairs to make sure there's no one with a C4 below aqua or below the spot where they want to plant. My main concern here for Empire is they're running a bit low on time.
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking the same thing. Compared to how the rest of this series has been going so far, this is really deep into the round for no kills to still be on the board. And it means it's going to have to get aggressive eventually. Joystick was waiting. He catches Vito out, and now just watching onto the white stairs. Should anyone else be down there? He wants to protect the flank of the rest of his team as they work on pushing up towards the site because they'll want to plant, but Cryan knows where Joystick is. He was playing patiently, and now suddenly you don't have that Ash for protection.
There's no time. Time's running out. Look at this, 13 seconds. Dan is below to make sure there's no one with a C4 downstairs, but the anchors on site are doing good work. Doesn't matter if you open Drinks wall if there's no one to watch it. In fact, they didn't breach the Drinks walls. Always gets 2 kills, traded out, and the defenders win on time. A very slow round for Empire, and it does eventually swing the way of Chaos.
Very slow round compared to the rest of this entire game, and it's just unfortunate for Always at the end there that he was in a position where, was he going for a reload? Something like that. Just couldn't land that final shot, because the 2K itself, I have to say, was kind of impressive given the fact that Chaos had such a decent position on the site. But regardless, Chaos are now catching up, and they will be heading downstairs. It'll be their first time going down to Sunrise and Blue, and this was a site that they didn't waste too much time attacking onto when Empire were defending here.
Yeah, very much so. They went for that Sunrise execute with the Thatcher, really helped them deny that. I call it the Pengu hold, that deep... I would love to call it cushions, but there are cushions everywhere in Sunrise. See, there's a couch, right there, near the B-bomb. But there are couches all over this map. There are couches all over Sunrise. There are couches right there. People often call this spot couches.
It's like, it's one of those things where it's like, what's unique about it? It's pink, it's got a Sunrise, it's got couches.
Pengu used to do a hold there.
Well,
that's
exactly, that's
unique.
it.
That's why I call it Pengu. But then it kind of gatekeeps for people that don't know that. So I apologize, and I'm trying to explain
Also, there's like a ton of, I swear, you know, there's other places on this map that people call Pengu.
Are there?
Yeah, in the kitchen. There are people who refer to that. Oh, I've heard it anyway.
Oh, really? Oh, jeez. Well, Chaos, nonetheless, they're going for this bomb site. They're not doing an extension, as we saw from Empire, in what I call Pengu spot, aggressive in Sunrise. Next one, though, is aggressive himself. 2.0 KD on 12 and 6. That is nuts. Shepard very aware of this aggression, though, so he throws out a drone to fake the run out and hope that next one gets greedy, but he doesn't.
Ooh, Cryan taking a hefty amount of damage there, down to nearly half HP. It's going to alert him to the service door, and he gets droned out as well. But the goo mines are also placed there. Dan will begin the rotate around. He's actually already lost both of his drones.
Yeah, I do wonder what kind of a push Empire are going to go for here. They're shaping up to go for maybe like a kitchen execute. There you go. They're going to breach this main wall onto Sunrise. It's a nice spot there. It does make it easy if you get into the plant spot. Also means you can deny anyone playing in that corner. But there's a lot of good util here for Chaos. It's going to have to be cleared. There's the Evil Eye and, of course, that deployable shield, which allows Secretly to play quite aggressive. Ideally, Empire destroy that Evil Eye and they go above into Hookah to flush out the play underneath with Always a skeleton key. But there's a roam upstairs. Nonetheless, it is that top floor take, and Joystick finds the first kill.
Next one present in Aqua, so he could be there to catch anyone out, and Joystick actually creeping up through luggage could meet his demise. There's the kill from next one onto Scyther. Does he know of the other player who's behind him? And another one from Empire. They're in VIP. That'll be always as a 2K is there for next one. He's having a lot of pressure, make it a third. He's just clearing up with these players from Empire, but he will eventually go down to Dan, who is a very low HP himself and has an impact straight to the face. This is a difficult position for Team Empire as they're relying just on Dan and Shepard, and they still haven't cleared out all that much from below.
That kill on the Crine might help, but a 2v2, and, well, I don't know, this is a lot of work still to be done here for Empire. Shepard full HP. Dan not so, and that's a concern if it comes down to late gunfights, if it comes down to the gas, and with 37 seconds left, Secretly can basically continually gas out that position till the end of the round. Vertical holes open with the Salma, not ideal, but it's something. And Renewals as well all the way back. Even with the Evil Eye, he might be able to clutch this. Empire, I don't think there's any way they can go for a passive plant. They've got to find these 2 kills.
Yeah, they're really going to have to get aggressive. And the problem with Dan as well is should a smoke come out as there's one left, he's going to receive a substantial amount of damage and potentially die. But Secretly will be the next one to die as Shepard moves in. He makes it a 2K and they take the round that looks so out of their own hands.
A 2v2, and well, Shepard certainly did go for both kills. That Evil Eye on the bomb site was taken out, and that's why Renewals knew he had to push. He couldn't play passive. That is the round that Empire clawed back from nothing. After next one's 3K in Billiards, completely dismantling Empire's top hold. It looked like Chaos had found a way back into this on the back of 2 defenses, but no, Empire closed it out in the 2v2, or should I say, Shepard closed it out in the 2v2. And, well, match point going their way. This is a good sign.
Empire really need this game. After what happened on Monday, where they had to take the forfeit entirely out of their control, they need this game. Because you have to remember as well, if I'm not mistaken, Empire face BDS next week. That is going to be the most difficult game that they have had possible. Now, last stage, they beat BDS 7-1. And it was after BDS secured their spot in the major and relaxed a little bit. Now, BDS have secured their spot in the major once again, as well as the EU finals. So it could be a similar situation. But you can't rely on that. BDS so far have looked absolutely terrifying. You have to assume it's going to be a difficult game.
Just double checked. It's actually Secret next week.
Oh, it's Secret, not BDS.
BDS is,
Well, Secret's going to be just as hard. I'm not going to lie. Secret's going to be equally as hard. The point is...
Same point, right?
Yeah.
That team is looking so good right now.
They are facing someone incredibly difficult. They need to take this win because if they are to force themselves out of the 9th place spot where they risk relegation, they've got to take whatever wins they can get. So this will be huge if Team Empire can secure this.
Think of it like this. If you can't beat the team that is already guaranteed for relegation, how are you going to beat the team that is currently 2nd in Stage 2? They need this win, and this should be a win for them, especially after Empire lost or forfeited that game to Vitality due to those unfortunate technical issues. And this is such a winnable game as well. In my mind, there is no way Empire loses this that isn't their fault.
Yeah, I think that's a perfectly valid way of looking at it. And Chaos certainly aren't playing poorly. I don't think there's any way that you could argue that point, to be honest. They've definitely been playing aggressively, but Dan's going to get one up on the aggression this time, as Vito is the first one to fall.
Wow, Vito's had a tough game. Been playing a lot of really aggressive positions and been the opening kill. Let me count this. 4 times so far, but Crine does fight back a little bit on the joystick. That's the trade, and oh my god, always, can you just stop? Everyone is dying so early on. Always has been tearing house here with the Buck, a player we haven't maybe talked about enough, but definitely shown up for Empire. Dan's watching the flank, but gets taken down. That's a critical kill for Secretly. But Always finds yet another 3 versus 1 now, and it looks like this is the end of the line.
Well, with Shepard going in for the plant and Secretly on the other side of the map, or rather upstairs, it's definitely a difficult task. Now you go, the diffuser has been planted. This is virtually impossible. He's got to get all 3 players as well as disable the diffuser if Chaos are to hold on to this round. This could be the win right here for Team Empire. That's what it turns into. A beautiful game, recreating what happened in stage 1, but Team Empire pull through the win rather than succumbing to a draw, and their hopes in EUL remain alive.
A great game for Empire here, looking very much on point every step of the way. Beautiful Fnatic skin there, if I do say so myself. And back in form as not only the team as a whole, but players in abundance. Dan had a huge one, 16-5? What is that? Absolutely disgusting. Great performances from Joystick, Always, Scyther, and Shepard. He might have only had 6 kills, but 2 of them were bringing back an unwinnable round. So credit to Empire, gold stars all on the board.
I don't think there was a single player on Team Empire in this game who looked like they weren't in the game. And that's a big problem that Empire have faced over the last year. There's always been someone who hasn't necessarily shown up as much. I don't think we can say that today. But it was an entertaining game regardless. And analysts, I want to know what you think. So over to you guys.